Power. These 4 books explain it better than anything else, from history, psychology, fiction, and philosophy. Let's break them down. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Okay, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. People see this book and think it's about climbing the corporate ladder or whatever. It's really just Greene looking at 3,000 years of history and pointing out the same patterns over and over. Kings, CEOs, politicians, they all do the same things, and it works. Law 1 is never outshine the master, which sounds kind of obvious until you think about what it actually means. So there's this guy, Nicolas Fouquet. He was Louis XIV's finance minister. Rich, successful, doing great. He builds this massive estate and throws this huge party to show it off. We're talking fountains, gardens, performances, the whole thing. Problem is, it made the king's place look bad, and 3 weeks later, Fouquet's in prison for the rest of his life. That's the thing about power. Your boss's ego matters more than how good you are at your job. You can be brilliant, but if you make someone above you feel small, you're done. It's not about being fake or holding yourself back. It's just awareness. Know when you're making someone uncomfortable, because that's when things go sideways. Then there's Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Sounds harsh, but hear me out. The Medici family had enemies who literally tried to kill them. When they won, they were merciful, let people live, even gave some of them jobs. Very noble. Except those same people spent years plotting revenge, causing problems, turning others against them. The Medicis kept fighting the same battles because they never actually finished anything. Greene's point is that half measures just drag things out. It's not about being ruthless for no reason, it's about actually finishing what you start. If you're quitting a job, quit properly. If you're ending a bad partnership, end it cleanly. Don't leave things half done and wonder why they keep coming back to mess with you. Greene's pretty cynical. He basically thinks everyone's playing power games whether they admit it or not. Maybe he's right, maybe he's not, but these patterns do keep showing up. So you can either understand how it works or just hope you don't get caught up in it. Your call. That's the historical view. Here's what's worked for thousands of years. But what about actual research on people in power today? That's where the psychology gets interesting. Power by Jeffrey Pfeffer. Jeffrey Pfeffer's Power, Why Some People Have It and Others Don't. Pfeffer's a Stanford professor who actually studied organizations to see who gets promoted, who gets resources, who gets fired. Not theory, real data. And what he found? Kind of uncomfortable. First thing, performance matters way less than you think. Visibility matters more. He tracked promotions across different companies and found that people who spoke up in meetings, even without adding much value, were seen as more leadership ready than quiet high performers. Just being memorable got them further. It's not that competence doesn't matter, it's that if nobody sees your competence, it basically doesn't exist. Your boss can't promote work they don't know about. So the people who get power aren't always the best at their jobs. They're the best at making sure everyone knows they exist, which feels unfair, but that's kind of the point. Power and fairness don't always overlap. Second thing, powerful people break small rules to show they're not bound by normal constraints. Pfeffer noticed executives showing up late to meetings, interrupting others, bending protocols. It wasn't rudeness, it was signaling. The rules apply to you, not to me. But here's the catch. You can't do this without credibility first. Break rules before you've proven yourself, you just look unprofessional. Break them after you've established value. That's leadership style. It's about understanding which rules to follow and which ones you can bend once you've earned that space. The psychology of power is knowing the difference. Pfeffer's book is basically saying the game isn't fair, and pretending it is just puts you at a disadvantage. You don't have to like it, but ignoring how power actually works doesn't make you noble. It just makes you confused when someone else gets ahead. So, history says strategic, psychology says manage perception, but what happens when power becomes total? Fiction shows us where this all leads. 1984 by George Orwell. Everyone knows the Big Brother thing, but the book's way more personal than that. It's about this guy Winston who just wants to have a private thought, and the party won't even let him have that. The party's whole philosophy, power is not a means, it is an end. Most people think power is a tool. You use it to build something, protect something, accomplish something. Orwell shows what happens when power becomes the goal itself. The party doesn't torture people to get information, they torture them because breaking someone is the point. This shows up everywhere, just less extreme. Managers who micromanage not because it improves results, but because they need control. Relationships where one person needs dominance more than partnership. Orwell's warning, watch for power that serves no purpose except keeping itself going. When someone wants control just to have control, that's when things get dangerous. Then there's this line, we control matter because we control the mind. The ultimate power isn't force, it's controlling what people think is real. The party rewrites history, changes language, makes the truth itself unstable. They don't just want obedience, they want you to believe there's no alternative. The modern version, whoever controls the story controls reality. Companies rebrand failures as learning experiences. Politicians reframe every question. Algorithms decide what you see, which shapes what you think is normal. Orwell's real insight, the most powerful people don't need to force you, they just make you believe their version is the only version that exists. 1984 is obviously extreme. We're not living in a totalitarian state, but the mechanics are real. If you control what people believe is possible, you control them, and that's way more effective than any physical force. Fiction warns what happens when power has no limits, but philosophy asks a different question. Should you even want power in the first place? That's where our last book gets interesting. The Prince by Niccolò Machiavelli. Written in 1513 as advice for how to rule, still gets banned in some places because Machiavelli said the quiet part out loud, that power and morality are two different things. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Machiavelli's argument, leaders who rely on love depend on other people's goodwill, which disappears the moment things get hard. Fear is more reliable because it's based on consequences, not feelings. He's not saying be a tyrant, he's saying if you have to choose, fear keeps power stable and love doesn't. A kind leader who's seen as weak gets overthrown. A tough leader who's seen as strong gets obeyed. The modern version, respect built on consequences lasts longer than respect built on charm. Be fair, be competent, but never be someone people think they can walk over, because they will. Then there's this. Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. Machiavelli understood that in politics, and really in all social situations, perception is reality. A genuinely kind leader who appears weak will be replaced. A ruthless leader who appears strong will be followed. It's not about being fake, it's about being intentional. What message do your actions send? A boss who's lenient with underperformers signals standards are optional. The same boss being demanding but fair signals excellence matters here. Machiavelli's philosophy, you can't separate power from image. You have to manage both, or you lose both. Machiavelli gets called evil a lot, but he's really just practical. He's not telling you to be cruel, he's telling you that if you want power, you can't rely on people being nice. You have to understand the rules, even the ugly ones. So, here's what all four of these books agree on, even from completely different angles. Power isn't really about force, it's about perception. What people think matters more than what's actually true. Power requires understanding people, not fighting human nature. And power without limits becomes its own goal, which is when it gets dangerous. Bottom line, everyone's playing these games whether they admit it or not. The only question is whether you're going to understand how it works or just be shaped by people who do. Which book's view makes the most sense to you? History, psychology, fiction, or philosophy? Let me know in the comments. If you want more books broken down like this, subscribe. Next week, I'm covering 4 books about human nature. See you then.